Welcome viewers, you're watching Field of Dreams and this is Axe Television Network. My name is Steve David and I'm your host. Today we talk football as usual and I've got a panel of some football experts, some real die-hard good guys. And I'll take time to introduce them. And let me start to my right, all the way down to the end, Sean Cooper. Sean, welcome to Field of Dreams.
Thank you.
And what's Sean been doing lately?
Well, basically, I've been preparing Queen's Park Football Club to compete in what we should say, the second tier of our football.
Right.
And against Keith, hoping to top him this year. You know, we won the championship of the Super League, and we are heading into the Premier Division. So bright things for Queen's Park, and a new journey, different stroke for different folks. Keith was, you know, basically the person who started me off with my first coaching course, you know, and from then I called him and complimented him for a good job he did, because since then, you know, I think I've been doing a pretty good job and surrounded with good people. Somebody who may have coached you also, Mr. Edgar Vidal, you know, and you know, a lot of people has contributed to my success, but you know, Keith is the one who, you know, I always call coach and have much respect for him.
Okay, glad to have you. Next to Sean is, you guys know his name already, Keith Lawyer, and he's got all the credit. And Keith, glad to have you back on the show again. Tell the viewers, remind the viewers who Keith
Well, thank you very much. I've been here before. I've had the privilege, the pleasure to be on this show before. And most recently, last week, I've talked about that on this station. Last week, we had the premiere of the ESPN program about the Harvard University teams of the early 1970s. I went to that. My wife and I, we went to that. That was excellent, seeing soldiers that I hadn't seen for 40 plus years.
Exactly.
So that was great. But more immediately, as Sean is saying, the new Super League season is what, 6 weeks away? Something like that. So my club, you know, we into early preparation for that, and that is consuming energies at this point in time. And of course, as ever, watching the football politics and tricks.
Right. As usual, glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next, on my left, I've got a good old buddy. From back in the 70s, we played, and we played a little bit beyond that. So Kendall Walks. Kendall, tell the viewers who Kendall Walks is.
Well, thanks for having me. I am, up until less than a month ago, I was the technical director for Trinidad and Tobago's football. And now I'm in transition, apparently. But still looking back at a position that ended prematurely. And I thought there's lots to be done. But being here today, seeing you, I don't want to spill the beans on your next guest. But seeing you guys, seeing Keith since it's in his, what should I say, his past Afro days. The last time I saw him, he had a huge Afro. Right. And meeting Sean for the first time on the guest to my left, it's good. I'm in good company, ready to talk football.
Glad to have you, buddy.
Yeah.
And next, we have Narada Wilson. And Narada, again, welcome.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to be in great company. So we'll see what we have for the viewers today.
Okay, viewers, you're in for a treat. I want to talk, and I personally want to say, first of all, that the Raymond Timke administration started to move the cart a little bit. And I was always skeptical about changes that wasn't warranted or wasn't needed. I felt like that one, we could have given him a chance to continue. But as it have it, we had to go to election, and we have a new administration. So for you guys, for the group, I want us to talk about what the new administration said they were going to do, or what have they done over the last 6 months, And do we feel they have moved the cart a little forward, or is it sliding backward, or is it stagnant? I'm going to throw that out and leave it open for us to talk about. So,
Who goes first?
you Keith.
Me? I didn't say that to prompt that answer, but okay, I will go first. We've had this discussion here before. I have participated in a kind of fringe discussion about this topic before, the last time I was here. If I have to give the new administration a score of 1 to 10, I would probably give them a 3, maybe a 4 in 6 months of tenure. And I say that because, broad strokes, I say that because most recently they had a significant achievement. They got, the financial documents into FIFA. FIFA has approved, and the president, David John Williams, has said that this is going to free up some FIFA money. Mark you, the new president of FIFA made a lot of promises before he was elected, and then subsequent to that he has had to back off because the war chest that he thought he had, he didn't have. And most recently he has asked the European football associations not to take some money that they would have taken so that he would have more to deliver elsewhere. But that's an achievement, and they, again, most recently, they got a couple matches for us to play in the near future, Peru, etc. So that's good, that's nice. But when I look at the span of the 6 months, they started horribly. We had the debacle of the women's tour, or the simultaneous tour of 2 teams, one to the United States, one to Brazil. Right. That was a disaster. And we have had a series, in my view anyway, of disasters since then. And this is on the international front. But my concern always is what is happening on the domestic front. And I am not at all satisfied that I have seen anything to convince me that they're doing work to move our domestic football forward. I'm talking about getting coaches into courses. I'm talking about doing work with the referees. I'm talking about looking at our elite football or our 2 elite competitions and trying to make some headway towards rectifying the problems that we have and unifying the 2 leagues. I'm talking about club development, club certification, which is a big issue in FIFA and CONCACAF today. I've seen nothing. And lastly, I'll say that one of the big promises that they made, and I referred to it here before, was that this would be an open administration. And the last time I was here, I called at the end, and I'll call at the top now for the new administration to have an open dialogue with the people who matter in football, who are the people out in the vineyards working every day, the people who run football, the players, the coaches, the administrators. They need to talk to us because, 2 or 3 people who have been elected cannot resolve the big issues in our football. And they need to talk to us. They haven't shown in any way at all that they're willing to do that as yet. Okay,
I agree. I always agree with most of the things you say, and everything you just said, I agree with. And I think that something needs to be done. Don't you, Sean?
Definitely so, but I think before you direct the question to me, I think you should go over to the former TD, because Keith has scratched some areas which I think he needs to comment on. Okay. And then I could expatiate after.
I like that.
So
I like that.
He
put you on the spot there
He's putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Well,
some of the things you think
there are some things that I'm not privy to comment on, whether it made sense or not. But in terms of something that Keith mentioned, moving the ball forward or moving the ball upfield domestically, I think you do need a technical director to effect that. I think some of the things that I had started, like the grassroots program, and the coaching education, coaching certification, are some of the things that can move the domestic program forward, is now sort of stymied a little bit. And it's, let's put, for one of a better phrase, it's in transition for whoever has to take up that ball and run with it. Um, but I think one thing I want to touch on in terms of moving the domestic game forward, the clubs that are currently in the pro leagues or the super leagues or whatever needs to broaden their base maybe fivefold. There are so many young players out there that the percentage of young players under the guise of a club is probably 2% or less. And so when you think of that, something has to be done. The technical director can run a grassroots program, but beyond that, because FIFA doesn't encourage competition at the grassroots level, they want technical building and stuff like that. Those kids need to have an avenue to express themselves. There's a youth league run by the Republic Bank and stuff like that, but it's short-lived. It's like 2 months. And I think the clubs need to embrace a much broader population of the youth in order to have the domestic game survive and be better at the top. So that I would say in terms of moving the domestic game forward.
Right. Is that enough for you, Sean?
Well, yes and no, because my issue goes back to something you said from the start of the program, where changes are made and whether or not the changes should have been made. We're looking at technical directors. So we had Lincoln Phillip, we had Anton,
Cornel?
yes, and now we had Kendall Walks. And all of them had the same, more or less the same program,
Right.
you know, same structure. And all of them left the job for the same reason. And the work that they had planned was not or could not manifest itself. So we at a standstill here in terms of coaching development, because I think that's one of the job of the technical director. If I am wrong, you could, you know. Which is a big thing for me, because we had 3 TDs and all we did was C&D license. We have not moved away from C&D license. So we have a bunch of coaches here with C&D license and no progression for them. If we want good products, we must have good coaches. Good information must be, I think, I am of a end product of Keith, and also all the TDs that I worked with and coaches, because I'm an individual who I like to tap on resources. So I will go at all the old, I've seen a coach, former coach of mine here in the audience. I wouldn't call his name. But from time to time, if we play in a game, I will go and ask him, how you think the team play? What is the problem? Now this is, for me, this is education for a coach. I will go and get it from the learned people. And I think this is some of the problems we have in, as you said, structure, broadening youth football. We must have some continuity, and we don't have continuity in our footballing programs. None, especially youth football. I have been privileged to be a national youth coach for around roughly 8 years. I've been to 1 CONCACAF final as an assistant coach with Anton, and qualified the team for 3 CONCACAF finals. We make recommendations and all of that after the tournaments, and nothing is being done about the recommendations. The reports are just placed in a corner, just like the same thing. You may have a program. I had the privilege to see Anton's program, and it was properly well structured. So that what is happening now at present with the under-20s, we are probably 3 weeks away from a tournament, and we just went to Tobago last week to do a screening session. So what I'm saying here is that we need also to structure things in the federation that we don't spin up in mud. I think I got in trouble for saying that.
But it seems as though that's a federational problem, and because
It trickles down.
It trickles from one era to the next.
Yes.
So is this administration today doing anything slower or better, or is the same pace? They're going at the same pace?
I have not seen it's 6 months, so it might be too soon to comment on certain things.
Okay.
But in reality, we have youth tournaments coming up. And giving a coach 2 months to prepare a team, it's a major problem. That's,
okay.
You're just sending the men into battle to lose, and then the coaches now get the rough end of the stick. What I'm saying is that the federation would have known months in advance, a year in advance, when tournaments are going to be played.
All right,
so why now? So, and this goes back to the TD. That is why, I'm saying I would like to know, at his level, what is happening in the federation with these information and trickling down, because, at the end of the day, the development of the football, we are going nowhere.
All right, let's get into that a little deeper as we move forward. Let me hear Narada. Let me bring Narada in for a couple of
I believe
comments.
We have to look at what are some of the main problems that the federation inherited. One of the things I believe every coach or any player in Trinidad and Tobago sees as one of the main problems in football right now is refereeing. The problem is that we don't have, I don't want to say sanctions, it's too strong of a word. The education for referees are there, but every game we constantly see complaints. We see match commissioners' reports that say referees have some particular problem happened or whatever, but the same referees continue game after game, refereeing game after game. So what happens? We educate, but we don't enforce anything. I am of the opinion that is there a document that sits down that says maybe if a referee has 3 complaints, we demote him to some sort of second tier or third tier. But these guys, we have a group of guys that stay within the Pro League, a group of guys that stay within the Super League. I don't know if everybody just enters a particular group and you stay there until. In terms of what Mr. Cooper is saying, he's right. Time and time again, we have a TD that comes in, a program is implemented, and when the other guy comes in, I don't know what happens to the program that was implemented before. And do we necessarily need to change it if in 4 years, you can't prove if a particular group of footballers actually grew? A program is supposed to last at least 6 to 10 years a program could run. You're taking a kid at the age of 8 and hoping by 18, that program could have showed throughout his youth stage in football that he would have reached a certain target. But if you implement a program and then by 12 years old, you're going to change it again, then 16, you're going to change it again, I don't know how much continuity we have in football going on there. And I think that is one of the major problems. It's everyone that comes in. I don't know if it's you go in and you only want to implement what is yours. Do we sit down and revise what was there before to ensure, okay, it did not work, that is why we're creating something new? Or did it work, so we should just probably enhance the program?
Hear what, guys? I want us, this is what I want us to do. I want us to comment or to look at, and I want you, Keith, to pick this up when we come back from break. I want us to talk about our present administration as to, do we think, they had a manifesto they put out. So let's attack that manifesto, not attack, but talk about that manifesto, the things that they say they're going to do, and are they doing it? So I don't want us to talk broadly like over the years. Let's talk about the administration today, if they're doing what they say they're going to do, so we can help them move this boat or this train or whatever forward, right? We'll be right back after the short break. Today we talk with football supporters.
can follow by not something. I reached the fresh nuts like tea.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Welcome back, viewers. You're still watching Field of Dreams, and this is Axe Television Network. Before the break, we were talking about our present administration as to where they're at on their promises, Keith. So there's certain things that are mentioned in the manifesto that they're going to do. How do you feel about what they've done so far, or what they said they were going to do? That they haven't?
Well, Steve, as I said in the break, right? A lot of promises were made in this manifesto, in this program. The general sense was that we are going to be different. There are problems. Everybody understands that anyone who came in would have inherited a financial problem. That is clear. A political problem because of that. That is clear. But they promised to be different. And they made promises about income generation, about elite football, uniting the leagues and resolving the issue of a connection between the Super League and the Pro League, about youth football, women's football, etc., etc. But, and I'm not on the inside of the TTFA, it seems to me as an observer looking in from the outside that all of their energies since they have come into office have been tied up in addressing the issues of international football and international politics and paying debt. And that again, that's legitimate. They inherited that. I understand that. But I'm not seeing even the smallest steps towards resolving some of the issues that exist on the domestic front. And even on the international front, I repeat, we have had our problems with women's football. The futsal team was in the media before they went off complaining about their preparation. The men's teams, youth sides, under this and under that, Sean was just alluding to that, they have their problems. And some of these problems have nothing to do with money. You come into office 6 months ago, you know junior tournaments are coming up. You don't wait until 2 months before to make an appointment, right? These are issues that have nothing to do with money. They have to do with good governance and good administration, right? Yeah, and an understanding of what the international calendar is. So, again, I repeat, I am not at all satisfied. I am not happy that, you know, we in football, who operate in football every day, are seeing enough to let us know that the first steps, tentative or otherwise, are being made, to use your word, to attack the program that we put forward to win votes. And, you know, on that basis, I repeat, if I had to score them out of 10, I would at best give them a 4.
I just want to interject there for the technical director, Mr. Walks, to speak on something, and as well for Mr. Cooper and Mr. Locloy to touch on. One of the things in the manifesto is actually increasing the professional league to 12 teams. If we look at the World Cup that is going to be in 2022, you have to transition years before for it to fall into this same timeline. If we're going to expand to 12 teams from the current 10 we are at now, that would have to be something that would have to be done a couple of years in advance for whether they have consultory talks with the Super League for you all to know, okay, it's 2 teams from the Super League have a potential to go up, you know, or is it a case of we're just going to leave it open to, in our 4th year of the administration, that any 2 teams could just pay and go in? Because I believe in 6 months, that's almost a season is already over. And I don't know if any talks came down to you guys as to, over the next 2-3 years, the Premiership, whoever reaches in the first two places has a chance to go in. And I'm just wondering with Mr. Walks if that would have been something that had to be structured years before. You don't just open 2 spots for 2 teams. So if you could touch on that, and then you could touch on probably if that has even happened, you know, with talks with you guys.
I think in sitting here and listening to the comments, I'm hearing many good comments, but comments in isolation and not connected, but related, however not connected. I think if you take the football in Trinidad and Tobago in its broadest sense, you have to work on different planes: implementation and organization, and work on both to try and create a balance. To speak of one independent of the other makes it very difficult to see how to put a handle on all of that. So you have, a lot of times you're alluding to implementation, whether it's the national team's performance or youth performance or coach's performance for the national team. That's implementation. The organizational part of it, with the preparational part of it, where, well, you know, a tournament is coming up, the transitions have been happening in such small windows that it makes it very difficult to have continuity. And whether it's the technical director's position or the administrative position, which we now have a 6-month administration, I think the windows are so small that it's very difficult. Now, Keith was alluding to at least wanting to see some sign that something's going to start.
But let's talk about, like Narada said, the increase in the 2 teams in the professional league, which I think the professional league is a little bit outside of TTFA, but okay.
Yes.
And that should be coming from the Super League. So how is that going to happen if I don't have the money? And it's not based on, like Keith was said before in the program, it's not based on football. It's based on how much finance I have. How is that going to happen?
Exactly. All of us sitting here know that when the MLS, as the biggest, one of the 2 biggest leagues in our confederation, when they intend to expand, the cities that are being brought in know 4 years in advance. They begin the preparatory work 4 years in advance, finding the investors, building the stadium, etc., etc., etc. In Trinidad and Tobago, it's a matter of putting an advertisement in the paper and asking anybody if they want, as we say, wash their foot and jump in.
Right.
This is not a proper foundation for professional football. The issue of, Steve, we've had the discussion, the issue of whether we could sustain full-time professional football in this country with 10 teams, never mind 12, is a valid topic. You know most people know my view on that. But the issue, therefore, is how we want to proceed with the development. I would have thought, and maybe it exists, maybe I don't know, I would have thought that a new administration coming in with a political program of what they intend to do in their 4 years of office would immediately upon, if not before, would immediately upon taking office, would set about constructing a development plan for all aspects of our football that would satisfy what they say they intend to do in their political program. We say we're going to increase or improve income generation. In our plan, how do we intend to do it? What are we going to do about marketing, etc.? We say we want to do something in futsal. Okay, what are we going to do? A development plan. And within that, a technical development plan. Maybe it exists. I don't know. But I've heard nothing about it, and I'm surely not seeing or feeling anything on the ground about it. Just last comment on the issue of the 2 leagues. We have made, in the Super League, I'm speaking as a Super League club owner now, we have made several attempts over the course of the last 2 seasons at least, 2 years, to find some kind of common ground with the TT Pro League, and in the last instance, we tried to bring the government and the ministry of then Minister Brent Sancho into it. to have meetings to discuss how we could bring these, what would it be, 26 teams together or 24 teams together. 10, this season in the Super League we have 14, last year it was 15. So 24, 25 teams together. How do we proceed? Are we talking about a new league? Are we talking about promotion and relegation between the two? What are the criteria, etc., etc.? No dice, and I'll say it openly. I frankly, and we frankly don't think that the TT Pro League is interested. The TT Pro League could not be interested in having a league into which people find registration based on football criteria, what we do on the field, if they have teams that come in last year after year after year with no consequence. No consequence. They come last perennially and they keep sticking out their hands to get money from the government. This is not professional football. If we're talking about professional football, we're talking about professional criteria. How good are you? What are you doing on the field to merit participation in this league? And everything flows from that.
Sean?
Well, strange enough, Warren and Kendall, we had a conversation on that in terms of what is the criteria for the Pro League. Should it change? Because again, as Keith said, before, the teams below, what gives me the motivation to improve, to give a professional, and this is the problem, the old timers like you Steve, you speak about how the football used to be the product. People will pay to see good football. That is what people paying to see. If my motivation to play football is to get $5,000 and not to put out a good product, it cannot sustain. We need to have some sort of promotion, relegation, that it will make me push myself even more to qualify, and I'll give a better product, and the league will be more marketable. So definitely we may need to change the constitution in terms of and in terms of what is the criteria to qualify for a Pro League. Definitely, as it is now, it's money.
Purely financial.
So you're
Purely
definitely
money.
going to support what Keith is saying. It should be football and not money.
It should be football because I am coaching a team, and I'm like an artist. What you see on the football field comes out of me. So I have pleasure in what I'm seeing. But if I go to a training session and I'm just going to collect money and I have nothing in it has, as they say, it have no vibes, it have no feeling. It's just an activity. This is a competitive, we have a Pro League. Can you compare our Pro League with the English Pro League? It's not a Super League we have, or a semi-pro, We have it as a Pro League. So when you're defining Pro League, what is Pro League? Mediocrity? No, mind you, there are some teams up there training very hard and looking for a finished product. But there are also teams must know that if they don't come up to standard, they will be relegated. But the Super League teams, some of them, or most of them, like Keith, the big cannon, their hands are tied because financially, even though they qualify, they may not fit the criteria to go up to the Pro League because they may not be able to sustain the large salaries that it requires from the constitution from the Pro League.
If I could just make one point here. Yeah. Sorry I don't want to seem to be monopolizing, but it ties in here. The CEO of the league, Dexter Skeen, well, of course, Central has won the Caribbean Championship again. All credit to them. This is not easy to do. I wish my club could do it. His, yours, etc. But he just made the comment that, we are the best league in the Caribbean and we are the envy of the Caribbean. To me, that is not the point, To me, the point is, are we the best league that we could be? Not whether we are better than the league in Antigua or St. Kitts or Aruba. That, to me, that is immaterial. Right? And without being, chauvinistic, we're supposed to be the best league in the Caribbean. Yes. If men playing football full-time, etc., we're supposed to be the best league in the Caribbean. So I'm not going to pat myself on the back for that. I'm going to pat myself on the back if I think at any point in time we are the best league that we could be, and right now, in my view, we are not.
Narada, I'm scoring an F. I'm keeping score. I'm scoring an F on joining, the leagues joining, because we haven't done anything that we said in the manifesto. Do you feel the same way, or do you have something different to say on that?
I believe the leagues, in my personal opinion, the leagues can join. What I believe has to happen is, it may be a bit tough, but I believe the subventions need to go towards the league itself and not directly to the clubs. Because what happens is, when it goes to the clubs, for those that aren't doing the work, it's a bit of an advantage for those that are. Because those that aren't doing the work, as we've rightfully said, just sit back and collect. They don't owe the league to pay high salaries. They don't owe to buy the best players. They don't, because at the end of the day, they're tied into something that seems to be unbreakable to receive. Now, if it is to the point where some of the leagues in the States, how they do it, it goes towards, in this case, the Pro League. So whoever qualifies, you now have access to that. But for that to happen, I believe the government now has to, if you're giving subventions up here, you need to probably give it down here. So what has to happen is probably the Super League Premier Division has to receive some sort of subvention. Maybe if we're using the figures, 80 is happening up on top, it has to come to about 50 or 40 on the second tier. So you know, if you fall down from the 80 bracket to 40, you have to sell all your players and you're going to work with a lower standard of players. However, if you qualify, you now open up yourself to either using the same players that you have, or now you have access to money where you can buy some of the top players. I believe it can't stay with 10 teams that are in there, you put out some money, and you're guaranteed money for the rest of your life. It has to reach a point where this money is only accessible to those that are in the league, and if you fall out of it, you go down to the next year. I think that's the only way it could work. You know, they have to do what they're doing on top with the bottom.
I hear you. You're trying to say subvention should be to each, the Pro League, the Super League 1 and Super League 2. And 100,000, 80,000, 60,000. Whichever teams is in there gets it.
Yeah.
You feel too.
If subvention, because I don't believe subvention needs to be something that we have to rely on.
Okay, so
right?
we
But if it's
educate
there.
them. Okay.
I think the whole idea of subventions is not something that I totally support.
Correct.
I think it does not incentivize anyone because there's, as Keith alluded, there's no penalties for mediocrity and there's no penalties for failure. It's coming anyway, so it doesn't incentivize anyone. So I'm not a big fan of that. However it should be done is not for me to say. What I would say is that I know the TT Pro League is separate from the association. However, if whoever is giving the subvention sees the league as a product, the entire league as a product, then they should have something to say about how they want their product to move forward. Not just give subventions and do what you want. They should have a say in how they want to see their product be manifested. The association should do the same.
Okay.
And try to lay the table, and then the teams come and say, this is what we're dealing with. As it is, to me, it seems like the teams are the ones laying the table, and who should really organize what should happen is coming after the fact, and I don't know what they're doing.
Well, don't you feel the subventions incentives are there, and then based on team football, we put teams in the right category according to what Keith was saying.
I wouldn't use the word incentives. I see it as handouts.
Well, okay. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will pick up where we left off. We'll be right back after this session. Today we talk with football supporters.
Can only buy not something. I've reached fresh nuts. Tea.
Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited offers solutions to your immediate and future potential problem areas by providing you with a qualified team of safety consultants. Worldwide Safety Consultants Limited, building a reputation on quality and value since 1999. Located 23 Todd Street, San Fernando, Trinidad. Phone 868-657-1534 or 868-788-6955. worldwidesafety@yahoo.com.
Welcome back, viewers. Field of Dreams on Axe Television Network. And again, we're talking football, and we were talking about merging of the leagues or the divisions in the Super League and the Pro League. I want to string a little bit, and let's talk about youth football, which is our future. And I would open up to the panel. And do you think our administration today is doing enough to support the youth football in this country?
I would just start because I just want to take it on the women's side quickly because I've dealt with that before. We had a team that had a lot of success over the last couple of years, but more so because it was a program that was implemented years before that we saw, the rewards. We saw a lot of scholarships being offered to the women. We saw a lot of players go abroad and play. We saw the team reach more or less what would have been the highlight or the peak of their careers. However, we are now seeing that there's a drop. And for people on the ground, maybe you have observed it, but there isn't as much women football happening in the country at the youth level that should have probably piggybacked off of the success of the team at the point in time. Now we're seeing, I saw recently, this particular administration put a call out for under 15. Yes, I believe under 15 women team. What is always sad to me, and I don't know if you all have the same viewpoint, but it's for Trinidad and Tobago to be constantly putting out calls for youths a little before a tournament. I think it's almost as though we are saying we do not have a list of 100 women that we could name that probably should have been there already at 12, 13, because 15 you're talking you've been at secondary school, you should have probably passed through some grassroots program or at least even started football at some point in time. It makes me feel that when you put an ad out like that, are you calling a girl who yesterday saw a football game and decides to come and play football for the first time, which is not a problem, but I think at certain categories, we should not use that medium first. We should be able to call on a couple coaches, a technical director, a regional coach or something to name a few girls that could come forward because they should have already known some of the better girls in the country and if not, there may be one or two additional that would come in. But to tell me that 20 or 30 girls are going to come in to under 15 program, I always see that as a problem.
I'll go one step further. If the approach to all the youth leagues, even the upper level leagues, if at the end of the seasons they have all-star teams, those names can become your core groups for tryouts. And you keep a database on players. Currently, I know for a fact, even the secondary school leagues do not have player bios. In the U.S., as soon as you have a team, every player has a bio page, right? With all their personal statistics. You are filling out bios when you come to a trial. So there's no collection of information at the league level. And I really think if you create all-star teams at the end of the league seasons, you're pretty much creating your player pools. And then some. It doesn't have to be just that, and then some. That's not happening right now.
Well, youth football, player development is in Trinidad and Tobago is chaotic.
Yes.
It's chaotic, you know. I'll give them credit. The one youth league that you can rely on to play a season every year is the TT Pro League. They will play their season. I'm not getting into the merits of the organization, the quality of the football, anything. It is played. Yes? But once you go outside of that, you're hard pressed to find organized, well, and of course the secondary schools league. Right? The oldest youth league and biggest in the country.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you're hard pressed to find organized football for juniors. In the Super League, finally we get in something resembling a league is going to run for a couple months, and we have been calling for a proper league for the last 4 years and haven't had one. Yes? And what happens in my club, again, you know, FC Santa Rosa, we have maybe 150 kids. And there's a hemorrhage, because particularly at the upper reaches, when a boy gets to 14, 15, 16, he wants to play, and he wants to play against other people. And if you have no one for him to play against, then he gravitates to some side and he goes to play in a Rima League or whatever it is after you've put, I don't know, 10 years into him.
And
So-
worse for a girl.
And worse for girls. So there's a hemorrhage of talent out, you know, out of the organization. So, you know, again, you know, what we really need to see is, you know, something that sorry, let me go back. Kendall made an important point at the very top. The vast majority of young players in this country play football outside of an organized club structure. Maybe they play for the school or whatever. That's 2 months, 3 months of the year. And then they kick around, you know, with their friends or what have you, or they gravitate from club to club and a little side here, a little side there. It's not organized, it's chaotic. And we need to do something about that. That's at the mass level. And even before that, of course, Kendall was talking about the grassroots level, which is where we bring them into football, right? We need to see more done there. But I also want to add, in terms of the development of elite junior players, nothing is being done. And I'm not talking about national teams. We have a tournament to go play in, Sean. We call some boys, 40 of them come, we pick a side and we go, and because of talent we beat Barbados or whoever. And then we come up against a wall and we beat Mexico and Costa Rica. But I'm talking about the development of elite players under the umbrella of the National Association, and which would involve boys and girls outside of the strict confines of a 22, 25 man or woman a national squad, so that the kind of thing that Kendall is talking about. We know that we have a pool, we have a database of our 15-year-olds in the country. We have 100 top players, and we work with them on an ongoing basis. When it's time to pick a team, we know exactly where we're starting to look.
Exactly.
We can find others, but we know we have a pool of 100. We don't have that. When is it going to start?
Well,
so we need like an academy or something.
Well, let me say something. We are regressing in the sense that we had center of excellence. All of them are I should say closed down.
Yeah.
To me, I may be wrong. So that if we have center of excellence all over and we have a cadre of, let's say, regional coaches dealing with them, and then you still have a national pool. You have a national pool with your national coaches, and you also have national coaches in the regional. So we have a broad staff, so that you will be taking people out of the centers and putting them into the pool, out of the pool into the centers. So you have a total developmental program. But as it is, we don't have that. So you will find, and this is where I spoke about continuity. So we have a structure where from 17s we try to graduate. In the centers, we may have some late developers. You put them into the teams. So you always have a team in training. So therefore, when a tournament comes up, you are actually doing tactical work and doing finishing product for the tournament. So what my statement is, when we go into a tournament in relation to the bigger CONCACAF countries, we are trying to qualify for CFU. they are preparing to qualify for the World Cup. So the level of preparation is different. Yet when you reach in CONCACAF, you have the US and the Mexicans having 30, 40 international games. The only experience your boys have is to play against Grenada, Barbados, St. Lucia. So it's chalk and cheese. So we have to set up that structure. I think, and this is where I say we're regressing, because I think this comes under the technical committee to set up that structure in terms of the Center of Excellence. So we will not be going through the same problems we have. One point before you go ahead. When our boys come back from a tournament, they are banished from society. And they are called back for a tournament 2 or 3 weeks. They are doing nothing. In the countries outside, these players are kept and continue to train. They will have 2 or 3 national teams. I experienced that once. We went to a tournament in New Jersey, and we were playing a Mexican under-18 team. We were under 16. And then there was a next Mexican national team playing somewhere else. So the head coach came thinking that this was Trinidad under-20 team preparing. When it was our under-17s, we didn't have our under-20 team in training. So we are 2 and 3 steps behind because our structure, our players pool, our structure with the Center of Excellence, all of these things need to regenerate in order for us to go forward to develop in this youth program.
I want to tie 2 ideas together. One, the Center of Excellence model, while it's a very good model, the finances that it would take to sustain such a model is very, very difficult. And I still think the onus should be on the clubs, whether it's the Pro League clubs or whomsoever, to broaden their base of youth development and involve many more youth players than they have. Right now, some teams are doing it, but maybe less than 1% of the pro teams are doing it. Most of them are adopting a team or 2 and going with that into the leagues. So they don't have a broad base. I think it should not be on the association to develop the players, that the clubs should develop them. The association organize the leagues that can bring them up and pick the. That's one thing. Another thing that I think is happening in Trinidad youth football, and I want to allude to what you mentioned, the success of the women's program a couple of years ago at the World Cup level, you said, was predicated on many years before players getting scholarships and stuff. We are starting to abandon the path to scholarships with the pro leagues. And we are limiting the number of youths that can have that broader horizon to go on scholarships. And in all our clubs, the administrators, the pro clubs, the administrators are the products of players who had that opportunity and that choice. All those choices. The pro league narrows the opportunities of these kids. It makes them think they're pros from the time it's called Youth Pro League. I'm a pro, right? And in so doing, it narrows their vision towards an opportunity that less than 1% makes it. Less than 1% makes it. As opposed to having them avail themselves to the same number of opportunities, and the Pro League is still there for them.
Okay, guys, I've got to bring it down to the end, and I'm going to echo everybody's sentiments to our president of Trinidad Football Association. Like Keith has said before, bring the stakeholders together and do the things that you promised to do and in your manifesto, and try to move this train forward. I personally am extending an invitation to you, Mr. David John Williams, to come on this show to discuss the issues or what you're doing or what you said you were going to do and how far you are or where you plan to go with it. And anytime, phone call, just call us at Axe Television Network and you can come down and defend yourself or express yourself to how you want to do it. And if you want me to invite a couple of these guys too, I will. I will do that. I want to thank Axe Television Network for giving us the opportunity to bring the show to our viewers. I want to thank our viewers for all the love and support over the year that you've given us. Thank you so much. To my panel, guys, Narada, Kendall, Keith, Sean, thank you guys so much for being here.
Pleasure.
Really
You're
appreciate you. I always love your comments, Keith.
Thank you.
And keep them coming, buddy. And I hope if Mr. Williams would like you come, I can invite you back and you can.
Absolutely.
And we can always
Yeah.
talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Viewers, don't forget we do have a Facebook page. Check us out. We do have an email address, fieldofdreamstt@gmail.com. Drop us a line. The show is ended. Go in peace. I'll see you next time. Remember, we on every Monday night from 8 to 9 p.m. on Axe Television Network. Good night.